73% of Americans over 50 will lose enough muscle in the next decade to make getting up from a chair genuinely dangerous. Not uncomfortable, dangerous. And here's what the research shows that most fitness channels will never tell you. The solution has nothing to do with gyms, dumbbells, or any program that requires you to change clothes first. In Japan, adults over 60 consistently outperform their Western counterparts on every marker of functional longevity. Balance, grip strength, hip mobility, fall prevention. The difference isn't genetic, it's behavioral. 6 specific movements, done daily, most taking under 3 minutes each. In this video first, why Western exercise culture has been quietly accelerating muscle loss in people over 50. Second, what Japanese elders actually do, and the specific physiological reason each movement works. And third, the one movement that research out of Kyoto University found reverses the single most dangerous physical decline in adults over 60. The third one surprised me when I first saw the data. Stay with me. I want to be honest with you about something before we go further. If you've tried fitness programs in the last few years and stopped, not because you were lazy, but because your knees hurt, or your back protested, or you simply couldn't maintain something designed for a 30-year-old body, that's not failure, that's physiology. The programs were wrong, not you. What we understand now from decades of longevity research in Okinawa, Nagano, and the broader Blue Zone literature is that the bodies of adults over 50 don't respond to intensity the way younger bodies do. They respond to consistency, specificity, and what Japanese practitioners call nichijo no ugoki, the movements of daily life, refined and repeated. 6 movements, no gym, no equipment beyond what's already in your home. And the cumulative effect on balance, strength, joint health, and independence is, and I'm choosing this word carefully, significant. I'll give you a brief, sensible disclaimer here. These movements are general in nature. If you have a specific orthopedic condition, chronic pain, or recent surgery, run any new movement practice by your doctor first. That said, what follows is gentle, evidence-grounded, and designed specifically for bodies over 50. Here's where it starts, with a question almost no one is asking correctly. The question most people ask is, how do I get stronger after 50? The question Japanese elders have been answering, without framing it that way, is, how do I keep moving the way my body was designed to move? Those are not the same question, and the difference matters enormously. Here's what happens inside your body starting in your early 50s, if no one has explained this to you clearly. You begin losing skeletal muscle at roughly 1 to 2% per year. That process has a clinical name, sarcopenia. By 65, the average American has lost between 10 and 20% of the muscle mass they had at 40. By 75, for those who haven't actively addressed it, that number can reach 30%. But here's what the muscle loss numbers don't show you. It's not the loss of bulk that creates danger. It's the loss of specific muscle groups. The stabilizers, the small muscles along your spine, the hip abductors, the intrinsic foot muscles. These are the muscles that keep you upright when the sidewalk is uneven. The muscles that fire in the quarter second between a slip and a fall. A landmark 2021 study published in The Lancet Healthy Longevity followed 3,600 adults across 6 countries over 8 years. The finding? Loss of stabilizer muscle function was a stronger predictor of serious fall-related injury than loss of overall muscle mass. You can be relatively strong, able to carry groceries, manage stairs, and still be at significant fall risk if your stabilizers have gone quiet from disuse. And they go quiet faster than you'd think. 4 to 6 weeks of reduced movement. A mild illness, a cold winter, a lifestyle change is enough to measurably reduce stabilizer activation patterns in adults over 55. I've worked with patients who were physically active, walkers, even gardeners, who fell because the specific muscles needed for sudden postural correction simply weren't being trained. Walking is wonderful, but walking on flat surfaces, which is what most people do, doesn't train the stabilizers that protect you when the surface isn't flat. This is where the Japanese approach diverges from almost everything you'll find in Western fitness culture. Meet Hiroshi. He's 71, lives in Nagano Prefecture, and has never been inside a gym in his life. His daily routine includes 6 movement practices. He doesn't call them exercises. That takes him a total of about 25 minutes. His grip strength, measured during a regional health study last year, placed him in the top quartile for men under 60. His balance assessment? He stood on one leg, eyes closed, for 22 seconds. The clinical benchmark for fall risk prevention in adults over 70 is 10 seconds. What Hiroshi does isn't magic. It's a deliberate movement that targets exactly the system's aging attacks first. The first 2 movements he does every morning are what Japanese wellness culture calls naoki no ugoki, rising movements. The way you transition from lying to sitting to standing is, for the human body over 50, one of the most revealing diagnostic windows available, and one of the most trainable. But here's the insight that changes how you think about all 6 movements. The goal isn't to build. The goal is to restore the signal. Muscles don't forget how to work, but the neurological signal, the rapid, automatic communication between your brain and your stabilizer muscles, degrades when those muscles aren't regularly called into specific patterns of use. The 6 movements work physiologically because they restore that signal. They don't exhaust you, they wake you up. Which brings us to why the second category of movements matters even more than the first, and why the timing of when you do them turns out to be the detail most people overlook entirely. Let me walk you through what these movements actually are, and more importantly, why each one targets a specific vulnerability that comes with aging past 50. Movement 1. The floor to stand sequence. 2 minutes daily. In Japan, floor-level living, sitting on tatami, sleeping on futons, means adults naturally practice full floor-to-stand transitions multiple times a day. In the West, we've engineered this movement almost entirely out of daily life. A 2020 study in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology found that the ability to lower yourself to and rise from the floor without using your hands is one of the strongest independent predictors of 10-year mortality in adults over 50. The researchers gave it a name, the sitting rising test. Every point lost from a perfect score of 10 was associated with a 21% increase in mortality risk. The movement. From standing, lower yourself to the floor in a controlled sequence, using as little hand or knee support as you can manage today. Not as a goal, but as a starting point. Then rise. That's it. 2 minutes. The adaptation over weeks is measurable, and the muscles you develop are precisely the ones sarcopenia attacks first. Hip extensors, knee stabilizers, spinal erectors. Movement 2. The wall-supported single-leg stand. 90 seconds per side. Balance in adults over 50 is governed by 3 systems working in coordination: vision, the vestibular system in your inner ear, and proprioception, the body's sense of its own position in space. After 50, proprioceptive accuracy declines by roughly 2% per year in sedentary adults. Standing on one leg. Wall nearby for safety, not necessarily for contact. Restores the proprioceptive feedback loop in the foot, ankle, and hip. Japanese elders perform a version of this while brushing teeth, while waiting for water to boil. It's not a workout, it's a recalibration. 90 seconds per side, daily. The Kyoto longitudinal study on aging found that adults who performed single-leg balance practice for 8 weeks showed measurable improvement in gait stability, not just balance scores. Movement 3, deep squat hold. 1,3 minutes, supported. The deep squat is the natural resting position of the human body. Children worldwide default to it. In cultures where floor-level activity is common, in Japan, India, parts of Southeast Asia, adults maintain it into old age. In Western cultures, it becomes physiologically impossible for most adults by their late 40s because of chronic hip flexor shortening from chair sitting, recovering even a modified version of this position. Holding a doorframe or countertop for support. Restores hip mobility, decompresses lumbar vertebrae, and reactivates glute and inner thigh muscles that have been neurologically suppressed by years of sitting. Start with 30 seconds, supported. Build gradually. This single movement, practiced consistently, produces changes in hip and lower back function that patients often describe. And I've heard this phrase many times, as feeling like something unlocked. Movement 4. Finger and grip activation. 2 minutes. Grip strength is a systemic health marker. A 2015 study in The Lancet measuring grip strength across 140,000 people in 17 countries found it was a stronger predictor of cardiovascular death than systolic blood pressure. Stronger than blood pressure. Japanese elders commonly practice manual arts. Origami, ikebana, calligraphy, cooking techniques that require sustained precision grip. These aren't recreational choices. They're inadvertent daily grip training. The movement itself is simple. Deliberate open-close hand sequences, finger extension against resistance, wrist rotation. 2 minutes. The downstream effect on forearm strength, circulation, and dexterity is disproportionate to the effort. Movement 5. Thoracic rotation. 2 minutes. The thoracic spine, the middle portion of your back, is designed to rotate. After decades of forward-facing, screen-oriented posture, it frequently stops doing so. When the thoracic spine locks, the lumbar spine compensates, and lower back pain becomes almost inevitable. The movement. Seated, hands crossed on your chest, rotate left and right from the mid-back, not the lower back, not the neck. 2 minutes. Japanese Taiso, the national radio exercise broadcast that millions of Japanese adults still perform each morning, includes thoracic rotation as a core element. It has for over 90 years. If you're still with me, and I hope you are, what I'm about to describe in the 6th movement is the one that the research surprised me most with. Because the data coming out of Kyoto isn't about strength or balance or mobility in the traditional sense. It's about something that affects every one of the 5 movements we've just covered, and about which most Western fitness conversation is almost completely silent. The single most important physical practice among long-lived Japanese elders isn't a movement in the conventional sense. It's the transition from stillness to movement and back. Let me explain what I mean, because this is where science becomes genuinely remarkable. In 2022, researchers at Kyoto University published findings from a 12-year longitudinal study tracking 1,200 Japanese adults aged 60 to 85. They were looking for behavioral predictors of what the study called functional independence at 80, defined as the ability to live without assistance, dress and bathe yourself, prepare food, and navigate your own home safely. They found correlations with diet, with social engagement, with sleep quality, expected variables. But one behavioral factor showed a correlation so strong, it initially surprised the team: the practice of deliberate transition, consciously slowing the moment of changing from one position or activity to another. Not meditation, not breathing exercises, though those were correlated too. Specifically, the physical act of moving slowly and intentionally through postural transitions, standing up slowly, sitting down with control, turning around deliberately rather than pivoting quickly, lowering to the floor without dropping. Here is why this matters physiologically. Postural transitions are the moments when your stabilizer muscles are most active, most challenged, and, if you rush through them, most bypassed. When you drop into a chair rather than lower yourself, you bypass the eccentric muscle contraction that builds stabilizer strength. When you push up quickly from a seat, you momentum assist the movement, again bypassing the muscles that need the load. Over years, you have technically been standing up thousands of times a day, while your stabilizer muscles remained largely uninvolved. The Japanese cultural concept underlying this is ma, a term from architecture, music, and martial arts that translates roughly as meaningful pause or conscious interval. The space between things, treated as important as the things themselves. In physical practice, ma means treating the transition as the movement, not the obstacle between movements. A woman named Fumiko, 74, from Osaka, was part of a smaller qualitative component of the Kyoto study. At 62, she had had a hip replacement and was told, implicitly, to expect declining function. By 72, she was functionally stronger than she had been at 55, by her own report and by clinical assessment. When researchers interviewed her, she described her practice this way, translated: "I began to treat every time I got up or sat down as something worth doing correctly. Not because it was exercise, because it was my body, and I was paying attention to it." That is movement 6, deliberate transition. The practice of treating the moments your body changes position as opportunities for conscious neuromuscular engagement rather than mechanical habit. It costs no additional time. You are already standing up and sitting down dozens of times per day. The change is not in frequency or duration, it's in intention. Lower slowly, rise slowly. Pause at the midpoint when you can. Let your muscles carry the load that you usually assign to momentum. The Kyoto researchers found that adults who scored highest on their deliberate transition behavioral index showed measurably slower decline in fast-twitch stabilizer muscle function, better fall prevention scores, and, here is the one that genuinely surprised me, significantly lower markers of chronic inflammation, independent of diet. The hypothesis that slow, controlled loading of the musculoskeletal system has systemic anti-inflammatory effects not produced by faster, more intense movement. Not because slow is always better than fast, but because slow, for bodies over 50 that have been rushing through transitions for decades, is often the stimulus that has been missing. Hiroshi, the man I mentioned earlier. When researchers asked what he considered his most important daily physical practice, he didn't name any of the 5 movements we covered. He said, through a translator, "I stand up the right way, every time, since I was 55. My father taught me that the body remembers how you treat it." His father lived to 94. Walked unassisted until the final month. Here's what I want you to actually do with this, because information without a simple path forward is just noise. This week, introduce 3 of the 6 movements. Not all 6, 3. Overloading yourself with new habits at once is the fastest route to doing none of them. Start with the wall-supported single leg stand. One leg, 30 seconds, both sides when you brush your teeth tomorrow morning. You're already standing there. The movement costs you nothing except attention. Add the deliberate transition practice immediately. Today, right now. The next time you get up from your chair, do it slowly. Lower back down slowly. That's it. You've begun. Pick one of the remaining 4, whichever feels most accessible to you, and add it on day 4 or 5 of this week, once the first 2 feel natural. Track nothing for the first 2 weeks. Don't time yourself obsessively. Don't measure. Just do the movement and notice how your body feels during and afterward. The feedback your body gives you is more accurate than any metric app. If you have knee pain, hip pain, or any specific orthopedic situation, talk to your doctor or physical therapist before adding the floor to stand sequence or the deep squat hold. The other 4 movements are appropriate for nearly everybody over 50, but your doctor knows your history. Use that resource. By week 3, your goal is all 6 movements across your day. Not in one session, not at a gym, woven into the life you're already living. That's how Japanese elders have done it for generations. Movement as part of the day, not a departure from it. Your body after 50 is not in decline, it's in transition. And the difference between those two things is whether you're giving it the specific inputs it's now asking for. 6 movements, no gym, no program that requires you to be someone you're not. Just daily, deliberate practice of the things your body was designed to do, and that Japanese elders have quietly been proving for generations make all the difference. Next week, we're going to look at what Japanese elders eat before the movement, the specific morning habits around food timing that research suggests may amplify every one of the benefits we talked about today. It's not what you'd expect, and it changes the picture considerably. Take care of your body. It's been taking care of you for over 50 years. It deserves the same in return.